about the cost of living crisis and the economic crisis in South Africa. I think today is a really good day to really get some insight into what's happening, what we should be thinking about, and how we can maybe protect ourselves. Fred Razak from CMTrading joins me. Fred, always so good to have you on Hot Business. Just describe the economic environment for us and give us a global perspective on what we're witnessing when it comes to the cost of living crisis.
So cost of living crisis is probably undermined by the inflation rate that is happening across the board around the world. And people mistakenly understand that to be the cost of gas, of petrol that is increasing, but that's not always the case. It's the fact that the same goods and services that we consume on a regular basis, the prices for those same goods and services go up from month to month, and thereby adding a pinch to an already aggravated market that is experiencing somewhat of a recession, even though technically we haven't hit a recessionary environment yet. So that is the current crisis that we're kind of coping with. And it's like a double-edged sword because the Fed tries to increase interest rates to bring down inflation, thereby pushing up the value of the currency. And yet that just draws people out of work because that means that it costs businesses more to operate because of increased interest rates. So it's like, it's a bad cycle when the machine of economy doesn't work on a split second. It adds all kinds of problems around the different parts of the economy.
I mean, and often when we talk about here in South Africa, the problems and challenges that we have, we often talk down the country and say, we're having this because it's, whatever number of reasons. But I think this crisis that we're facing is one that really people around the world, you've spoken about the US, people in the United Kingdom are experiencing this, people in France are experiencing this, people in Ghana are experiencing this. We're really almost all in this together, right?
That's the way it feels. That is generally the consensus. It's not just something that's isolated for a country. I mean, South Africa has, from what I understand, 40 to 50% unemployment. So that's really aggravated to a much more serious level. But even in Europe, I mean, when inflation hits, nobody's happy. Okay. Because even if you do have a job, you're earning fine. You're earning the same thing you were earning 2 years ago. Your cost of living has gone up. So your purchasing power has gone down. So you're not as inclined. And there's a lag time between when employers catch up to inflation, right? It just doesn't happen, you get a raise from today to tomorrow. And that only happens at the end of the recession as companies are starting to hire new people to expand their business coming out of a recession. So that's part of the, bad environment that we're in, is that people's purchasing power is diminished, even if they do have jobs.
I mean, we have a crisis of unemployment in South Africa. As you mentioned, it's around 30% when you're speaking about the general population expanded. It's about 10 million people who are unemployed. When it comes to youth, we're sitting at close to 50% youth unemployment. The problem with a high inflation environment and the problem with an environment like the one you've described is that the most vulnerable are hit the hardest. And in South Africa, we know that we have a large population that is already struggling financially, unable to work and the like. So that makes things worse for them. I mean, there's categories of worseness, right?
Right. But nevertheless, I still like the silver lining. There's always something on the horizon, at least over the past, I would say 40 years, that there's always something that kind of brings us out of these type of depressive states. The mood just gets really down when you talk about, recession and depression, and it, to me, it just seems like, we go through these cycles and it seems like it's going to be this bad forever, but we come out of it. And there are some things on the horizon that are showing us some light. Something like AI, which is artificial intelligence, the exact capacity of how many trillions of dollars that will add to the marketplace, believe it or not, is yet to be shown. And I think that that's something that people underscore. And if AI does replace some of those automated jobs that we have already, there are other sectors that you can, our agriculture or biotechnology, that you can expand even more. So, just because one sector gets hit, because it gets replaced, it opens up many other venues in other areas.
I mean, Fred, one of the reasons I enjoy speaking to you is that you have seen financial crises come and go. You have been trading on Wall Street in America when there was chaos. And so it's almost like you understand how to ride out a storm and how to think about how to ride out a storm. Speaking to our listeners in Johannesburg and around the world online here on Hot 102.7, what would you say is the most important thing to remember in a time like this?
Good times don't always stay, and bad times don't always stay. So, and that's probably the silver lining out of everything that I've seen in life. When there are good times and you think that it doesn't turn, just learn how to appreciate it and don't take it for granted. And really capitalize on it as much as you can, because it does end. And then when you're in situations like this, just realize it's not as bad as you make it. And this too shall pass, just like everything else passes. So, I think that that's probably one of the best knowledgeable advice I ever was received is this too shall pass, on both sides. Don't get too arrogant when the markets are doing great and you're doing fantastic. Be responsible to save for the rainy day. But also realize on the flip side, when things are difficult, they don't always stay that way. And they come to an end as well, and they too shall pass. And in fact, it's actually these type of environments when things are down that it creates tremendous opportunities.
And what kind of opportunities would those be?
So, it's for example, I mean, if we look at a company like Intel, which is one of the largest microchip manufacturers in the United States. Intel has been around since as long as I can remember, since computers are around, okay? And they're always, not always on the cutting edge, but they've always been a company that has kind of tested, the test of time, and have really come through. And if you look at their stock yesterday, happened to be that it shot up, above $35. They were trading as low as $24 a share, and it shot up to $35 a share over just a gap up and a go. And it's really just because there was some positive light at the end of the tunnel for one of their chips that actually hit the marketplace, and there was demand for it. And we're not talking about a small company that you could just, pump up the stock so easily. This is a multi-billion-dollar company. And that means that there's a lot of financial institutions putting their money into this company, if they're moving it that big. So these are positive signs. When will we exit from this? There's a lot of geopolitical issues around the world. How far the war with Ukraine will spill over around the world, that's something that's really more concerning to me than the current economic climate. Although if you don't have a job and you're out of work, it seems like that's Armageddon for you. So I get that. But there are those type of opportunities that are created in the marketplace.
Let's see what happens. And those of us who invest, or those of you who are listening who invest, there are opportunities there, even in dark times. The Chief Trading Strategist at CMTrading, Fred Razak, always so good to have you on Hot Business. Really appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you.